while we do this. Big warning coming, got a few more coming in. Next time I do this on a day when I'm in the office, so somebody else can run this part. Here we go. All right, Kent, I'm gonna
Gretchen, you're muted.
Thanks, Fred. Showed somebody how to do it and did it to myself. Good job. Good benefit is at the beginning of the presentation, when I put it up on whatever website we use, I can delete this first couple of seconds. So here we go. Training day 3. It's Wednesday. It's March 25th. Reminder: turn off all your cameras and mute yourself. You can unmute when it comes to a question time, or use the raise your hand or chat or ask a question when we need. First thing we're going to do is go over last week's homework. Then I'm going to start the presentation with the last obstacle that we didn't go over. We made it through trees last week, but I'm going to start with green surface. We're going to use chats or raise hands if you need to ask questions. And then we're going to go over along par 3. This is a continual issue with just about everybody. I'd like to say it's only one person, but it's not only one person. Almost every time we have a long par 3 where a bogey can't reach, I'm still getting the same problems every time. So I want to go through that again. And I'm going to keep going over it until I have to stop correcting them every time it happens. Anyways, feel free to send me an email question if something comes up after we log off. So again, we've made it all the way in the obstacles down through green surface. So we'll start with green surface today. Green surface is the evaluation of the difficulty of chipping and putting on each hole. It is based on the green speed as measured by a Stimpmeter and green surface contouring or slope and tilt. Everybody knows we carry a Stimpmeter with us, and while we use it differently, this is how it's actually used to measure the speed of a green. How it's used is you want to find a level area of the green. You don't want to go to an area that is the most contoured area. You want to start by measuring that on a flatter area of the green. You want to set the ball in a little notch, and then you're going to lift the Stimpmeter very slowly and lift it until gravity takes over and the ball starts rolling. Where the ball meets the green and the end of the rollout, you measure that distance and you do it 3 times. Then you want to turn it and measure the distance in the opposite direction at least 3 times. You want to do this in several areas around the green to get a good average. Luckily, we don't need to do this very often. Most of the OGA courses will provide their average in-season green speed. We don't care about what it does in the winter when we're not posting. And we don't care about the one-off tournament when they get it sped up for the US Open tournament or their club championship. We care about the average in-season speed. And a reminder that we do still use the Stimpmeter to assess if a green is rolling 1-to-1, 2-to-1, or 3-to-1, heading up or downhill for the green surface information. Here's the chart. The chart is read by figuring out what the green speed is and then go across to the contour columns. If the green speed is 10'6" and it is a moderately contoured green, you just zip right over there and it's a 7 and in parentheses 8. Note that the table values in parentheses are bogey rating, and that is written on the Form 1 as such. Green surface, when it's recorded to you as 6 or 6s, 5, 5s, 8, 7, even 7 or 8, if you're down here in this column, it's always the same for scratch and bogey. Here, it's the same for scratch and bogey. Here, it's the same for scratch and bogey. When you get to the double number. So if somebody says it's 5s, it's 5 for scratch and 5 for bogey. 7/8, 8, 9 should be recorded separately. Some of the contour descriptions that we have. Relatively flat surface is one with a few knolls and swales that may cause subtle breaks, and the amount of downhill to uphill will be less than 2-to-1. Moderately contoured or sloped surface is one with prominent knolls or swales that may create many breaks. The amount of roll downhill to uphill will be between 2-to-1 and 3-to-1. Hopefully you understand when I say 2-to-1 and 3-to-1. So something that's running 10 feet in one direction and 15 feet in the other direction is less than 2-to-1. That's a pretty big explanation there, but highly contoured surface is one with large knolls or deep swales or numerous shelves that are designed for hole locations. The amount of roll downhill to uphill would be more than 3-to-1. Here's a good example of relatively flat. You can see some small, subtle little areas here. There's even a pretty good area here. But remember, you want to look at the entire green. So that is a good example of a relatively flat green. Moderately contoured. You've got a pretty good swale going through here. Looks like it's turned up at the end. Looks like balls hit from just about anywhere. You're going to want to think about your ball turning and weaving to get from where you are to the hole. And highly contoured. This example shows lots of places your ball might turn more than once getting to the hole. That's it. There's 3 descriptions, and then the green speed. That's as simple as it gets on that one. So the adjustments. 1 is unpleasant turf conditions on the putting green cause a well-struck putts to routinely miss the hole. Such conditions must prevail throughout the midseason. If we rate 2 days after aerification, we need to assume that that is not the normal mid-season conditions. If it's July and it's totally burnt out, but it's a temporary situation, I think it's a good time to remind people when we rate, we're rating for the next 7 years. So as long as it's a normal condition, we want to think about the normal during the season, that 8-9 months that we're posting. We want to think about those conditions, not that 1 week or the damage after a storm. If elk run across a green and wipe it out, that's going to be a temporary situation. We wouldn't add a U adjustment in that case. And a U adjustment of +1 if the circle concept has been applied to determine the effective green diameter, because a player cannot putt from one part of the green to the other. That gets applied again to both scratch and bogey. However, if the green is tiered, In green target, it goes to both people. In green target, in green surface, it is only applied to the bogey golfer. Does anybody have any questions about green surface? That was a pretty quick one. It's for newer golfers. You're not going to be assessing green surface for probably a couple of years. John, I see a question. You can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you. So on the first unpleasant condition for the +1, what would be an example of that? It's like that something that would be there all the time that would cause something like that.
Yeah, that's often greens that are just flat, not very well cared for. Unfortunately, there's a Oak Knoll that's just outside of Salem. Their greens have gotten so bad over the last couple of years. When we rated them a couple of years ago, they were awful and they were so dry that they were cracked. That's a more permanent situation. I'm this close to actually deleting their rating. Never mention that to anybody outside of this group, by the way. They're just not maintaining the course well. Or if it's a disease that's gotten into the green where there's going to be lots of brown spots. If it's a temporary situation, they'll let us know. If this is a situation they've been dealing with for a couple of years, and it might be a couple more years before it goes away, that's when we would add the unpleasant. By the way, when we are on the course and there are members, golfers, employees anywhere around us, please say U adjustment and not unpleasant. Because what happens, that's when I get the call. The course rating group said that our course is unpleasant. No. we don't want that call. So if anybody's around you on the course, just say, hey, can we add that U adjustment? They're not going to know what that means. All right, let's head back to the presentation. So that's basically all of the obstacles. We've gone through each one. If you missed the presentation for last week, it is on the ProBoard page. If you'll notice, we've also updated to the new logo and it looks a lot cleaner. Reminder that it is a free site, and if anybody wanted to pay us $100 a year, we could take the ads off. But we're going to keep the ads in, so don't click on the ads thinking it has anything to do with us. You know, somebody had an issue with that. Anyways, does anybody have any questions about obstacles before I go forward? Good. Keep going. Okay. Quick go over of the homework from last week. I did put the answers up on the sheet, but I want to go over it as well. If you had the choice to rate this either for men or for women, quick notes. The hole is 444 yards for men. It's 374 for women. Elevation from tee to green is about 17 feet. Bogey landing zone here. You can kind of see what's going on. We got a bunker, we got trees, cart path, out of bounds line. I've got water. Whoops, I've got scratch landing zone. I've got trees. I've got water, cart path, out of bounds line. I've got bogey landing zone 2. Had to cross the water to get here. I have a bunker. I have cart path. I have out of bounds line. I have trees. There's a whole bunch of bunkers in front of this green and around it, and a bunker between the cart path and the out of bounds. Little things to think about along the way. So topography wise, that's another thing that's been brought out. Minor stance issues and stance and lie issues for the entire fairway. But the approach shot, remember, you only need the elevation to the green for the approach shot. Bogey's approach shot to the green, scratch approach shot to the green are both +11. I've given you that exact information. You don't need to make anything up or make any assumptions. So fairway width, 48 yards for bogey's first landing zone, 34 yards for their second. Oh, sorry, the reminder about topography. I know somebody brought up the fact that we don't use, that they never assign a 1. We need to assign 1s. If the fairway is almost flat, minor stance and lie issues, minor, so little bits of something, not anything that's gonna make you change your stance or push, but something that's just a little minor. Minor is minor. A lot of the fairways on Riverside were ones. It depends on the course and where you are. If you know OGA a lot, hole number 1 doesn't have a flat lie in the whole thing. Hole number 9 is pretty much flat. We kind of walked that one for the on-course training on Monday. It's flat. There shouldn't be anything up to a 2 or above a 1, to be honest. But if you keep rating at a 2 instead of a 1, it starts overrating golf courses at some point by the end of the rate. Anyway, fairway width, green size. I gave you that 24 by 30. R&R 2 3/4 cool season. Bunkers at the green, it's 1/4. It's 4 feet deep. Are there any other adjustments? Big question. How about fairway bunkers? What do you got? Crossing, we gave you the safe carry for bogey golfer, 110 for men or 95 yards for women. For scratch, it's 60 for men and 35 yards for women. There's out of bounds along the entire left side with a cart path the whole way. I'm not going to be real specific about breaking it down to this one's 32 yards, that one's 35. Anything between 30 and 39 is the same number. So on my sheet, I ended up writing down 35. That's good. It's in the average. You could have written anything down between 30 and 39 and been fine. Yes, there is a cart path. Look at this cart path the whole way. But what do you have here? I have a bunker before the cart path. What do you have here? I have a bunker before the cart path, and I'll discuss that when we get down to talking about lateral in a minute. Trees are moderate off the tee, and they're less difficult as you go along. I'm going to kind of keep trying pushing it this year. Truly, the biggest impact for most courses is off of the tee. After that, unless the trees are more difficult off of the tee, in the fairway or at the green, you don't even have to look at trees again. You put down your initial observation. You might be able to go up or down one very easily, but unless you have something that's more difficult, you don't even have to look at trees again. I still am having people give assessments of trees at the green, and if it's a par 4 or par 5 hole, that doesn't make a lot of sense because the same tree at the green, you have one golfer coming in at 300 yards and 250 or inside of 200 yards, I'll say that. And then you have somebody right off the green. Those two trees are going to have a different influence on the people. But you can give different for scratch and bogey. If I'm on a par 3 hole or a long par 4 or par 4 or par 5 where the only trees are at the green, you can say a long shot is a 6, a short shot is a 4. Something to that effect. Again, you can have different trees for different tees and different abilities, scratch or bogey. I'll get off that soapbox real quick. Okay. So here's the answers really quickly. I had stance evaluation was given to you as ones or minor. I have the men's on this side, women's on this side. I had an approach shot elevation of 11 yards that I gave you. I only need to write 10. If you want to write 11, you're fine, but I need to know that it's off of the 10-yard row that I need to get that information. And off of the chart, plus 10 feet, and a stance evaluation of 1 is a 2. It's the same for scratch as it is for bogey. For the fairway widths, you were given 40 for scratch, 48 for bogey, and 34 for bogey. I didn't even look this one up. That wasn't even an option. I'm going to go straight to the narrowest landing zone, unless there are some adjustments in here. At that point, we might want to look at both. But for the general purposes, you're going to look at the narrowest landing zone. For scratch, that's for the bogey. For women, it's the same information so far. We got to green target. This is where things change. 24 plus 30, basic math, that brings you to 54. Half of 54 is 27. 27 is a column 5 green. Remember, for the newer folks, the column number comes off of the very top of the charts. It's in parentheses. For the column 5, it is between, and let me grab my book, which of course I had buried. Column 5 is anything between 27 and 31 yards. So when you're reading that off to the people that you're rating with that day, you want to read that off as width by depth, 24 by 30, 27, column 5. 24 by 30, 27, column 5. Try to give all 4 pieces of that information. Because if you're only giving 2 or 3 parts, you're not giving the whole story. R&R right off the table. For men, because we are 2 3/4 inches, that's a slightly different column for women. So, back to green target, sorry. For men, scratch is a 5, bogey is a 3. For women, scratch is a 5, still a 5, but the bogey lady is a 4. Now R&R is also going to go up again because we're 1 column over for the women than we are for the men. So right out of R&R, there were no extra adjustments. 5 off of green target to 2 3/4 is a 5. 3 for bogey. Start on the right hand side, slide over to where 2 3/4 is. It's, I believe it's between 2 and 3 inches. Is a 4 off the column. For women, when you get to the R&R chart, and again, that's where that split happens. I hold that up and show people. It's going to go blurry on me. Oh, yeah, never mind. It's going to go blurry. So for women, it's between 2.5 and 3.5 inches. So you're going over 1 column, start at the bottom and go up. So 5 for scratch gives you a 6 off of the chart. 4 for bogey gives you a 6 off the chart. Bunkers, and I have some notes down here about bunkers as well. That helps to show where I got my numbers from. Scratch has a 5 on green target, 5 on green target, my chart. 5 for green target. For scratch, go over to 1/4 to 1/2, starts at a 4. Plus depth, it's 4 feet deep, so we know that you have +1 depth for either men or women. With that picture, and I can go back to the picture if you want, it is definitely significant carry of the bunkers to get to the green. You're going to have a carry adjustment. And then bogey has, no fairway bunker in the scratch landing zone. And I have a yes for bogey's first landing zone and a yes for their second landing zone. Reminder, when I'm doing my paperwork and I see 2 yeses for the same golfer, that second one just gets a yes and a 2 automatically. Triggers, there's something that needs to be adjusted. So when I have 2 yeses for the same golfer, both scratches on 1 tee, both bogeys on 1 tee, I'm going to have a 2 adjustment. That means it happens 2 times. It's a 1-point adjustment. So for scratch down here, you can see the notes from the chart. Scratch has a 4 plus depth plus carry minus no. That 4 becomes a 5. For bogey, the chart number is a 3 plus depth, 4 plus carry, 5 plus the 1 point for the 2 adjustment brings him up to a 6. Sliding over to the women's information. For scratch, chart number is 4 plus depth plus carry minus n. So that's chart number +1. That 4 goes up to a 5. And here's my big note on carry here. Both of the scratches, both the male and female scratch golfers have a 5 for their green target. If they have a 4 or less for their green target, you cannot add the C adjustment to them. So since they both had it, they both get that C adjustment. And mathematically for bogey starts at a 4 off of the chart plus depth plus carry plus 2 adjustment gets her up to a 7. Crosslinks are pretty much straight off the books. If you notice, what I see a lot of times is people put the information here. For here, if I'm putting the crossing here, this is my crossing off the T. And that pretty much should match unless I have like 2 creeks to carry and bogey can't cross the far one. But this number isn't to carry off of the T, it's to carry their next shot. So you play off the T to here, and then the crossing is to get to the green. So that's why it's in this spot. For bogey, they're a play off the tee to here. They have to carry it to get to their second landing zone. That's why they're pushed out to that far. And just right off the chart, 35 for men is a 0. 35 for women is a 0 for crossing for scratch. Bogey male at 95 is a 4. Bogey female at 95 is a 4. Is a 5. Like I can say the words, I can't say it. Where the lateral comes into play. Right off the chart, I just wrote down 35 for everything. Makes sense to me. Reminder, I always put my green side information in this area. When you see me write it, I always kind of put a slash from corner to corner. That's kind of reflected by this slash here. There's no better way to do that and pull it up in Excel, which is what I use to print this up in. Anyways, so off of the chart, and I'll explain how these all happened. Off of the chart for the landing zone for scratch was the 3 to 35 plus bounce of the cart path plus K. K is the stroke and distance. When it comes to if I hit out of bounds, are they playing it as penalty area relief? If they're playing it as penalty area relief, whoops, hang on a second. Let me get my pointer back. Let somebody else in here. So if I'm playing it as, if they were playing out of bounds always as penalty area relief, you wouldn't add the K adjustment because you would have lateral relief. If they're playing it as stroke and distance, whether it's out of bounds or lost ball, that is where you add the K, stroke and distance. That's why the K comes into play. And I really don't have to call it a plus K because it only has a plus adjustment. Kind of funny. Okay, get one more in. Yay. So here we go, and I'm going to add this. It's basically comes out to the same numbers for either men or women. So I'm just going to do one side instead of going back and forth. So again, for scratch, 3 off the chart plus bounce plus K. And then your shot to the green, which is 194 yards to the 35. So at the green, the chart was a 2 off of the chart. I have a plus bounce, minus bounce situation. So that bunker right off the green is a bunker between the green and the cart path. So that bunker is going to be a minus bounce. If I have trees along the out of bounds or rough, extreme rough, it's still a minus bounce. If I have a minus bounce, plus bounce, cancel each other out, and then the K would still get added. So 2 plus 1 for a 3, that's the scratch number. For bogeys, I have that same full tee shot to a 35 is a 3 off of the chart, plus bounce for the first landing zone, plus K brings that up to a 5. For the bogey's second landing zone, that bunker, there's that fairway bunker on the left, again, is going to be a minus bounce. So minus bounce plus bounce, they counter each other or cancel each other out, but I still have the plus K or K. So that 3 off the chart plus K brings me up to a 4. Now, if I only did the plus bounce there and didn't give it also the minus, that would take it up to a 5. 1 point, not a problem, but it's not just 1 point, it's 2 points. Because then I have a 5 and a 5, and when I have a 5 and a 5, I have further adjustments to happen. So be really cautious about the minus bounces. I have been kind of applying after the fact because I know if I see it on one chart, not the other, I'm like, wait a minute, where is this? And then I have to go back. Anyways, so think about your minus bounces. And again, that could be a bunker between the issue. It can be trees. It can be a fence line, anything that's going to cause a ball to stay in instead of bounce out. And you can have a plus and minus so they counter each other. Yes, I have a bunker. I also have a cart path. If it misses the bunker, it might hit the cart path, might go out. Trees, I just told you right off the bat, were moderate. That's not an issue at all. Surface, it was 11.6 and moderate, I believe it was. I'd have to go back to the sheet to look. It was 7s right off of the chart. Let's look at psychological. For scratch, throw my little laser pointer back up here. Love the laser pointer. A reminder, you have to have at least 3 factors of 5 or above. Unless, oh, you know something, we didn't go over psychological, did we? I'm going to go back after this and talk about psychological. I just realized that we didn't talk about that. Good job, Gretch. I have a 5 for green target, 5 for R&R, 5 for bunkers, 5 for lateral, and a 7 for surface. So 5, 5, 5, 5, 7 adds up to 27. You look at the chart, I have 5 factors at 27, brings you down to a 3. That gets written here. For bogey, I had 3 factors. However, I had a 6, a 5, and a 7, which adds up to 18. Since it's not a 20, there's no adjustment. If I incorrectly gave this bogey a 5, I have a 5 and a 5, that would then again average up to a 6. That bumps it up 1. So that could be that if you do that a couple of times, that might have taken that 18 up to at 3 factors. Is that a point yet? At let me go to psych. At 3 factors, if it gets up to a 20, that's where you start getting a psychological rating that starts at a 2. So you can see where if I incorrect one here and incorrect one here, and you know that 18 goes to a 20, so I get 1 point, 1 point, and then 2 more points. That's going to start adding up. When I get to psych for the bogey, scratch, I have 5, 6, 5, 5, and 7. 5, 6, 5, 5, 7 adds up to 28. I have 5 factors of 27 points, 28 points. That gives me a chart value of 3. For the bogey lady, I have 6, 7, 5, 5, and 7. 6, 7, 5, 5, 7 adds up to 30. That's a bogey, a psych factor of 4. That gets written as 3 for scratch, 4 for bogey. Again, luckily, we don't need to assess psychological, but it's good to see how if you get something off, all of a sudden it just kind of just trickles down and starts adding up all over the place. Now that I have psych in my mind, I'm going to go back and go over the psychology. I'm going to go over psychology. How did I do that? I had it in my brain because I was just going through it before the session. I'm like, oh yeah, we're fine. I did that, right? So psychological. Any of you guys are everybody, we're all golfers here. Golf is a psychological game. There's a lot going on. I see a question from Scott.
Yes,
Before I go back.
Back on the tree rating, I just had a question.
Okay.
All the trees are on one side of the fairway. Would you consider taking that down to a 3 from a 4?
I'd have to see it. And since we gave you the calculation of moderate, I'd keep it at moderate. So if I said moderate, but maybe you want to give a -1, then you could take them 3. But yes, if you were on a course and you saw that, you could do that easily. All of those situations give you a possibility of a -1.
All right, cool, thanks.
Okay. So going back to psychological, it is the evaluation of cumulative effect of obstacles on a player's score. It's not calculated by graders. Again, I really wanted you to see that just so that you could understand how overrating can really start affecting people. It's the course rating program will assess it based on the obstacle ratings, but it is definitely good to know how it's calculated to show how overrating can further affect course and slope ratings. It just, you know, trickle down, it trickles up. So a quick look at what this looks like. If this were a form, and this isn't any particular whole or thing, I think I just pulled these numbers out of the air. For if we had all of these numbers are 5 or greater. Quick example, the Scratch Psychological, they have the number of obstacles is 4. You add up the obstacles that are 5 or greater, 5, 5, 6, and 6 adds up to 22. 5 to 22, drop down to the bottom, the chart number would be a 3, or the assigned number is a 3. And for bogey, I have 6 obstacles and they add up to 36. 5, 7, 6, 7, 5, 6 add up to 36. That they would have a psychological rating of 5. And that, again, this is one chart, same for men as women, as long as all these factors ended up the same. However, you're going to see some notes coming up for the adjustments. So for instance, extreme, if this can affect either scratch or bogey ratings. If any other obstacles have an extreme rating of 10, it does not happen very often. I think we might have 4 10s for women in the state for women bogey. As a matter of fact, we might have 1 or 2 holes that have a 10 of for scratch, either scratch or the bogey male. It doesn't happen very often. But even if there's only one factor that is a 10, which is the max, so if anything adds up to a 12 or a 13, we still can only give a 10. If anybody has one obstacle of a 10, the minimum psychological rating starts at 5. We start at 5 and then anything else gets added to it. If you have 2 or more, it starts at a 9. Somebody has 2 10s on a hole, there's probably supposed to be layups or other things going on, and I don't even want to think about that. That doesn't happen, at least in Oregon. I'm sure there are holes out there that do that. Extraordinary. Now, this applies only to women and only to bogey women. For crossing or lateral ratings, if I have a 5 for crossing or lateral, a minimum psychological rating is a 6. If I had 6 for crossing or lateral, it starts at a 6. And if I have a 7 or more, it goes straight to a 10. So technically, I'm going to go back to this example. 5 or 6 starts at a 3 or 6. Let me go back to this example. I have a 7 here. That 5 should automatically go up to a 6. That would be the minimum rating for the bogey female. If that's a bogey male, it can stay at a 5. Note that we used to automatically add for the first hole and the 18th hole, they automatically started at 2 and then anything else could be added to it. That's been removed. But we don't have to really worry about it. So I'm gonna go out there. There's the quick one. That's a pretty quick one. Again, we don't have to calculate it, but I'd like you to see what it's about. Does anybody have any questions on psychological? Give about 3 more seconds.
Gretchen, just a
Yes.
quick, so you start with the minimum and then you add what you normally would count for psychological, or if it's lower than that minimum, you bump it up to them.
Correct. So if I used that example before where the bogey was a 5 for adding up the psychological, because they had a 7 on their crossing, because of the extreme thing, you start at a 6. So it takes the 5 up to a 6. You don't add 6 to 5. Okay, that gives you the minimum number, not additional number. That makes sense? Good. Okay, we're going to go back and go after. Since I rushed out of homework to get there, now that we've I've thrown you off. There was the homework. Does anybody have any questions about the homework? Now I have to look back at that. 5 and 5. Okay, good. We're 6. We're not 6s. So again, the psych, that chart is on your page too. So the psychological is here if you needed to see it. Crossing and lateral, actually here. Sorry, I'm wrong on this. This crossing, nope, we're good. We're okay. Since this crossing is a 5, the minimum bogey psychological rating is a 3. We got up to a 4, just fine. I have 2 crossings of 5. It's still a 4. If either one of these was a 6 or higher, we'd be starting at a 6 instead of a 4. Again, any questions about that homework before I?
Yeah, I've got a question on the bogey, or
Okay.
the bogey bunker for a yes off the tee.
Yep.
Is that because it was beginning of this landing zone?
Yes. That is definitely, think about, that's the end of the landing zone. That's the beginning of, reminder that a fairway bunker, for it to apply, you have the whole 20-yard landing zone, more if you're rolling downhill. So the entire landing zone, and then it has to be near. So that can be 20 yards after or 20 yards before. So since this is the end of the landing zone, think 20 yards back and 20 yards, that bunker is definitely in play.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, don't just think the final line on that one. Okay, any more before we keep going? Okay, we're going to go forward. So this is the fun thing. We deal with the Form 1. The Form 1 is the form that we put into the system. I'm going to show you what, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here because we are never going to do this math, but it exists, and this is how the numbers really get ported up from here. So it's a real brief look at where all the numbers go after I enter them into the system. Note that scratch and bogey are calculated differently. Men and women, scratch and bogey, it's all calculated differently in the background. And the EPL, so the EPL, the effective playing length corrections, happen first. After the EPL, everything else comes in. So after the Form 1, and I know I'm going to do this in backwards order because I wanted to show you that EPL really counts more. So a 1 point change in roll multiplies by 3.5. For scratch, it multiplies. So that's the same multiplier for scratch and bogey on this one. So think about that. We've adjusted 5 yards, but that multiplier of 3.5 adjusts. So all of these things go back and forth. Roll, elevation. So that's the stuff that I've written in, the elevation from tee to green. Dog legs or layups, that gets all factored in. Wind is factored in. Altitude is factored in. And that's something, again, altitude, I write the altitude in the program. You'll never see that written in except for in the difference in the shot lengths that happens every 500 yards after 2,000 feet. Sorry, 5,000 feet. 500 feet. Every 500 feet after 2,000 feet of elevation, you get a little extra bump, except for poor Bogey Lady. So it's calculated by front 9. It's calculated by back 9. There's all the crazy math that happens here. So this in particular was the Mountain Views blue tees for men. Elevation, and so again, it's elevation per 9. It takes the minus 100 on the one par 3 and then the plus 120 on the next hole and all the 9 holes and adds them together. So there's the overall adjustment. So this is the, again, math in the background. You can see how getting that correct is very helpful. And then we get into all the obstacles. This is the Form 2. Again, if anybody wanted to see a very specific individual breakdown, I can do that. Not this week, maybe about 2 weeks out. I'm still trying to play catch up with a bunch of stuff. We've had some good technology issues coming up. But topography, if you look at topography for scratch, is multiplied by 0.10. The bogey is multiplied by 0.12. So for bogey and scratch, they have different factors, numbers factored in. And you get to very specifically trees. Trees, scratch is multiplied by 0.09, and the trees for bogey is multiplied by 0.14. So you see that there are different factors between each one of the different situations. So that's one of the reasons very specifically for trees, I wanted to point out that even if you have the same number in the charts, if it's 4 for scratch and 4 for bogey, bogey is still going to get a little extra bump because he's the bogey. And by the way, I know John remembers being at Castlewood for the course rating we did there. One of the best experiences I think I've seen at a calibration was having a really good golfer hit balls from in the trees up to the green at different distances. Caroline Inglis Knopp, her married name. Caroline was a phenomenal junior golfer with OGA, went on to play for Oregon. I hope I'm saying the right one. All of a sudden I feel bad. I think she went on to play for Oregon. She was in LPGA. She is now retired from LPGA, and she took over for Monica Vaughn. She's running the junior stuff and charity, so she's trying to collect all the money to help more kids get into. I know she's got a better title than that. Anyway, Caroline has offered to come out and do a tree show for us to show how a better golfer hits out of those trees. So if you can't picture how a scratch golfer or a better golfer can hit out of the trees, it would be a good thing. I will have that one taped. Somehow I'm going to get a video on that one. Anyways, I just wanted to show you a little bit of what that's like. All of these numbers get factored together. You've got bogey numbers and scratch numbers and par 4-5s and par 3s. But you can see that all the math, it's just this crazy amount of math that goes in the background. All right, and here comes the fun part, transitions. You know you love them. This is transitions happen enough that I really need to push them being done correctly. So the first thing is, what is the correct procedure for deciding whether a course or whether a hole should be rated in transition? And what is the best way to use the transition concept when you are rating the hole? So there's the two best things. So the first step is you need to apply any effective length corrections, roll, dogleg, layup, elevation, altitude, any of those things that will change the shot lengths need to be calculated first. Anything that's going to change that shot to the green. If I see a 5Z going at that green, that means the shot to the center is 5 yards short of center. Once you get the EPL for the hole, that's going to be the yardage that determines whether the hole should be transitioned. I don't like this example because I don't have a good picture for it, but it's what comes right out of the book. At 365 and it's a flat hole, or 275 and it's a flat hole, probably would not be transitioned. So think of a flat hole where a bogey male who hits 200 off the tee and 170, he's 5 yards into that green, or 5 yards just past center of the green, so he should be good. A bogey female hits it 150 off of the tee and 130 for a second or subsequent shot. That 275 is 5 yards beyond the 280-yard shot. So you shouldn't have to transition something like that. But think about if you get to a hole that's an uphill and you're starting to lose 5-10 yards. If I lose 10 yards, I'm now 5 yards short of the center of the greens. And then we have to start thinking it. Even though I haven't written transition zone down, you might EPL your way into a transition. And I don't think we do that nearly enough. That shot that barely makes it but is uphill, we maybe should be transitioning those, but we'll get into those when we hit them. A quick look at it, and this is going to be a lot of words, and I probably should have made this into 3 slides, but I just want to really talk about it and see it all. For a hole that meets the guidelines for transition, the rating team, so the whole team, must decide whether the hole will be played with a long approach shot that comes to the center of the green at least 50% of the time, a short approach that goes sorry. The team must decide whether the hole will be played with a long approach shot that reaches the center of the green at least 50% of the time, or a short approach that will require more than 50% of the time. So it's that hole that just barely meets the center. The decision should be based on the length of the transition, the effective length corrections that may apply, and the nature of the obstacles that protect the front of the green, which may affect the chance of reaching the center of the green. Now think about those, anything in front of the green that might stop a ball from rolling onto the green might also affect a long shot to the green. So something to think about there. Once the decision to put somebody into transition, you want to rate it as follows. So determine the green target rating for the hole, starting with the value from the bottom row. So go straight to the bottom. That's an average of the long shot and the short shot. If you looked at them, that's pretty much where that comes from. So if the long shot's a 7 and the short shot's a 2, that's a 9, 5.5 or 4.5. They automatically round up to 5. So there's some quick math. You want to use that green target rating value from step 1 and then determine the rating value for both R&R and bunkers and apply any necessary adjustments. The process for rating remaining obstacles will depend on whether the hole is successfully played with a long approach shot, reaches the center of the green for at least 50% of the time, or if you need a short shot a little bit more than you're going to reach with the long shot. Pictures are coming. That'll make the words make a little bit more sense. Again, if the player reaches the center of the green with a long shot at least 50% of the time, rate the remaining obstacles along the length of shot of, rate the remaining obstacles using the long shot for the approach shot information. If the player will not reach the center of the green at least 50% of the time, but real close to 50, you want to get that little short shot in front of the green. You want to make sure you get that information. And then the note is the decision about whether to play will most often have a long shot or short shot approach shot, may also impact the adjustments applied when rating R&R and bunkers. You want to make sure that decision before rating green target, because you want to get that, are you going to make the green all the time? Is it going to be 50-50? Is it just off the green, 50-50 with a short landing zone? Or is it never going to reach the center? These don't need to be 20-minute dissertations every time. It's really a short discussion. So, transition zone must assess items. The area close to or on the green that is just beyond the average distance a golfer that a golfer can expect to hit with consistency. Assess how often. 100% you make the center, so that's just the long shot. The transition zone, 50%, half of the center, half short. Or you totally miss the green. The big reminder is it's not about getting on the green, it's about reaching the center of the green. You want to think about it's the average of the long shot, which is the high green target, and the average of the short shot, which is a low green target, and go straight to the bottom of the green target table. There's no more +1 or -1 that we used to have. So I grabbed a wrong book just the other day. Yes, I make mistakes, go figure. So I grabbed the wrong book right out of the chart. How that got into my little mobile office, I will never know, but it was there. And I grabbed the wrong chart and it had a lot of the wrong numbers. So what is meant by reaching the center? If this yellow line is the center of the green, will a ball reach the center? Will it reach the middle, or is it going to be short somewhere along the line of play? If I have a bunker on the left and a bunker on the right of that green, what is the percentage of a ball that can only squeeze through this little bit here, reaching the center? You want to think about 10 shots that are coming into the green. Are 10 of those balls going to make it right up this center section to possibly roll to the center? Or are you possibly going to, are you going to be laying up or in the bunker or totally off the green? So if my ball, this red line indicates mathematically if a ball is supposed to be about 2 or 3 yards short of center. What's going to stop it from getting to the center? What's going to stop it from rolling that extra bit? If it's further off the front, that ball that's just mathematically 10 yards short of center, 15 yards short of center, even though that has rolled on the green, that's not the center of the green. So if I have a ball that's only reaching the very front of the green part of the time, bunkers or not, even if it's wide open, if it's not reaching the middle, you can't give them the long shot to the green. So if I have a ball that's technically rolled just a couple yards onto the green, I need to give them one more landing zone just off of the green, whether I'm transitioning or not. But remember, it's all about getting to the center. So here's the updated method to process transition zones. So make long shot to the green, high green target, 50-50. The ball rolls to the center of the green 50% of the time. It's right off the chart, which mathematically is long short. And if it misses, just give a short shot to the center of that green. They're right down to the bottom. That is where the transition roll rating zone happens. So if you think half the time they're going to get to the center, half the time they're going to be off, right to the bottom, that's it. A reminder what we need to assess, that we need to assess the entire 20-yard landing zone, not just that end bit. You want to look at all the little things that are there. You want to think about the beginning of the landing zone, not just the end of rollout. What are the obstacles that might prevent a ball from getting the entire roll? What are the dimensions of the green? So if I go back to that picture before that happened to have a bunker here and a bunker here, what if it's also a little uphill right in front of the green? A lot of greens have that little lip on the front. It's not enough for a mound or roll, but would it take off enough yardages that you wouldn't make it? For greens that have one dimension longer than the other, this is where knowing the length of line of play and width versus depth. So this little fake green that's 20 yards by 40 yards, 20 yards by 50 yards is my line of play, the red line or the purple line. 10 yards short of center is on the red line, and 20 yards short of center on the purple line are completely different shots. So here's two quick examples of transition zone. So example 1, you believe the player is going to get to the green at least 50% of the time. You're only going to record the obstacles at the one landing zone that's out here. If you think the player is going to get to the landing zone just a little bit less than 50, if you think the player is going to get to the green, the center of the green, a little bit less than 50% of the time, you're still going to use that bottom row, but then you also need to remember to assess a landing zone about 10 yards short of the green to get that short information as well. Evaluating fairway landing zones. So here's the written part of this. You want to remember that all obstacles need to be evaluated if the player is short of the green. So that spot here, you still need to remember if you're a little bit less than 50%, get this second landing zone recorded as well. When the player is expected to reach the center of the green at least 50% of the time, use only the long shot. When they're just short, get that short shot as well. So there's the other reminder right out of the book. If we're using the transition zone, all of these things need to be measured if you're off the front of the green. Does anybody have any questions about transition zones? If you're real new, don't worry about it for now. It's going to take about 5 to 10 years to have a clue about transition zones. They're very weird. Any calls? Last question about transition zones? Have I lulled you all to sleep yet? So which side would you be on with transition zones? Lost, confused, unsure, unclear, perplexed? Or do you get it a little bit more now? You good? Okay, I'm going to go forward. Another concept that we don't use very often, typically it's applied to bogey. It's not very often applied to scratch, but it can happen. If I have a situation where a bogey cannot complete the hole, gosh, Tethero, I think, had 4 holes where from the furthest back set of tees that we rated, there's even another one behind that was beyond 7,000 yards. There were a lot of those situations where the bogey couldn't even reach the fairway. In a situation like this where you're not reaching the fairway, you need to assign a safe landing area, even if the player can't reach it. If that area is not fairway, and luckily this is in our guidebook. So even if we're using the cheat sheets, Tim's little fancy schmancy cheat sheets, make sure to always have your guide. Somebody in each group needs to carry a guide, whether you're using the cheat sheets or not, if for no other reason to have this with you. So even if you can't reach technically the fairway. So if this were the bogey shot, bogey male, and he had a 200-yard safe carry, we know he can't reach that. He's landing at 180, he'd be in the water. But if it's the furthest back set of tees and he has no place to lay up, we have to give him a bogey rating for the hole. So you're going to assign him a landing area. You're going to use the scratch fairway table to indicate what that name. So if this is the scratches fairway table, you're going to take that information off of the chart and add 1 point. And then you're going to rate all obstacles in this landing area, whether he's going to be there or not. You're going to use the highest crossing value of possible plus adjustments. So more than likely, you're going to have the highest off the chart plus a C adjustment plus anything else that's in there. And for any subsequent shot lengths, you're going to assume that the crossing did not occur, and then use normal shot lengths. There's an only way to do this, and this concept applies only if there's no bailout area. I mean, you're really, nobody's going to lay up 20 yards so that they can hit over a full shot. They shouldn't be playing those tees. However, this is the method that we need to use for that. It doesn't happen very often, but we need to know how to do it when it does. I love this adjustment code book. For those who don't know it, in your guide, on the very inside the last page, I think I need to get these printed up and like laminated, made as poster sized pictures and hang them up on your ceilings for when you can't sleep. It's one of my favorite things. It allows for a quick lookup to see which adjustment applies to where. If you're measuring, if you see a cart path and it's going into trees, can you add a bounce to trees? No. Look at trees. So look at bounce really quick. Zip right over. The only place where bounce applies is to lateral. It doesn't even apply to crossing. So bounce only applies to lateral. Where do I adjust for layup? Go to layup. There's that LU. It applies to fairway, zoom, zoom, and it applies to R&R. Going back to the transition zone is Z. If that concept is used, you need to look at all those things that are listed down here. A green target gets changed because of the transition. If you need to have that landing zone in front of the green, all of those adjustments need to be taken care of. One of my favorite things in the whole book. So here's a quick look at the practice hole. I put up just yesterday or the day before, I can't even, the days are all running together right now. So a practice hole, if we're looking at a short par 3 hole, quick look at this. If the green is 12 feet downhill, I got a tee, I got a green. It's not that bad. It's just a little bit downhill. It's probably flat to flat, so it's not like a downhill where your bogey's going to get extra roll. Reminder, if you're ever taking any test with USGA, unless you're told that it happens, if I wrote somewhere in here that the bogey golfer is going to get 12 extra yards, you might be able to adjust roll. But that's just saying it's teeing off to a green that's 10 feet downhill. The bogey landing zone, whether you rated for men at 255 or women at 175, you're still going to have a landing zone for the bogey, this little blue square that's right here. The fairway landing zone is 12 yards wide. The green is 24 by 26, my fancy schmancy, pretty well drawn green. It's gently sloped, so that would be the first column. And the stimp meter speed is 11.6. Recoverability and rough is 2.25 inches. That puts men and women in the same column. Bunker is quarter to half. And it's 3.5 deep. If you look at your green side bunker depth chart, plus 2 feet for women is a +1 for depth, plus 3 feet for men is a +1 for depth. 3.5 feet, it's over 3 feet. Everybody gets a +1. There's no crossing in here, but I'd like to see something. Don't just leave it blank. Just, you can put a cross through it. Something that says I looked at it, but I didn't find anything. Lateral, there's a cute little pretty river that's over here that runs about 28 feet from the center of the fairway all the way 28 feet from the green, and the trees are moderate. Again, I'm giving you the information. Don't make anything up or make any assumptions. So this I was able, since all the numbers come in the same, if you ever see it, anything in the book, you'll have men's information 225. Women's information is listed in brackets. Very simple. For topography on a par 3 hole, the only time you have number is if I have approach shot elevation of +10 feet or more. +10 feet or -10 feet technically on this situation. It's a difference of 10 feet. So right out of the chart on the par 3 topography hole, you have a 1 because of the -12 feet of elevation. Now I have a bogey landing zone down here. If my bogey is in front of the green, he doesn't have approach shot elevation. Use my little laser pointer again. His approach shot elevation to the green is here. He doesn't get the approach shot from the tee box. So he doesn't get the +12 or -12 feet here. He doesn't get that point off of the chart. I told you right here, the bogey landing zone is 24. Oh, sorry, bogey landing zone is minor to moderate. So right out of the chart, that minor to moderate is 2 points. So looking at my chart here, minor would be a 1, minor to moderate is a 2. Even though it's a par 3 hole, and it even says over on the side, on one shot holes for par 3, you use the par 3 hole column and rate topography based on elevation difference between the green and tee. For holes where the bogey player cannot reach the green in one shot, rate topography as a 2-shot hole. Right here under topography, see if I can get that focused in. Absolutely not. Why is it not focusing? I don't know. It's right here on your topography page. I'll just say that. And I'm probably a little tiny square right now anyways. So it's right there under the section 8 under topography. Look at the 1-shot holes for par 3. That's where that note is. When I have a landing zone, the only thing I cannot give the player is fairway. They get everything else in that landing zone. So I told you that the minor to moderate, so bogey gets a 2 right off the chart. He doesn't get a 2 plus 1 for a 3. And he doesn't just get a 1 because it's downhill to 12 feet. We still need to measure the width of the fairway, even though he doesn't get a fairway rating. And this is what I've been doing for the last couple of years. Because this doesn't apply to fairway rating, it applies zip, whoosh, right down here to R&R. Circle that fairway width, paint it right down to R&R. That's going to be your reminder that that is where the adjustment lives. It lives in R&R, not in fairway. There's the reminder. If I have a landing zone, I need to measure everything in that landing zone. What do I have in this landing zone? I have a bunker near my fairway landing zone. It's a fairway landing zone. So even though it's a par 3, if that bunker is near my landing zone, I don't get the no adjustment applied. So I don't get the -1 for bunkers. I also have, it's using even in trees. This is a 2-shot hole for bogey, even though it's a par 3. So little things to think about there. I also have a full shot to the lateral and then a little tiny shot to the green for bogey. So let's go down and look at the numbers here. Bogey golfer for male or for scratch golfer, male or female, 225 to the green or 175 to the green. They both still get a 6 right off of the green target charts. For the 25-yard shot for male golfer to a 5-column green, he gets a 2 off of the chart. Bogey lady gets a 3 off of the chart. R&R, we're going down to the column that's 2 1/4 inches. So men, it's 2 to 3 inches. Women, it's 2 to 2.5 inches. So it's all in that same column. For green target for women, for scratch lady, scratch, whether it's bogey, male or female, right off of the chart. The 6 is a 5 off the chart for R&R. For the bogey, now that's where that 22 comes into play. You have, if you look under R&R, there's a 3 adjustment, and there's 2 potential adjustments there. If it's not cut to fairway height, or it's less than 20 yards wide, it's 2 points of a 3 adjustment. Now it's called a 3 adjustment because it's a par 3. It doesn't mean add 3. In this situation, it's 22 yards wide, 22 yards wide cut to fairway height. It is a +1 for the 3 adjustment. So off of the chart, the 2 for male bogey becomes a 4, 3 off the chart +1. For women, it's a 3 off of the chart. It's a 4 off the chart +1 brings her up to a 5. Are we good here so far? For bunkers, I've got 1/4 to 1/2. And again, don't look at the picture and get out here with a slide rule. Just understand that I gave you that information. It's 1/4 to 1/2. Trust that it's 1/4 to 1/2. And it's 1 point of depth. For male, for scratch, whether it's male or female, because they're reaching the green in 1 shot, they have no fairway, they have no fairway bunker, you might just subtract 1. For bogey, he has a yes, or she has a yes. They have a yes for their landing zone bunker. So in that case, you don't give a no. So scratch is a -1, bogey is not a -1. Reminder that greenside bunker chart assumes a fairway greenside bunker. A fairway bunker is there. So right off of the chart, it's 4, it's a 3 +1 for scratch. It's a 3 plus depth for bogey with no -1. It's a 4, it's a 3. I say the words right. I should probably add it up. Is it down here? I have it down here. Sorry. Greenside bunker, just remember that it's a -1 for scratch and it's not a -1 for bogey. No crossing ratings. So again, just take a second to put a little hash mark through that, at least on the final number. I don't care if you don't write anything over here, just a 0, a scratch, a squiggle, something that says I looked at it, but it didn't exist. Lateral. So for lateral, bogey has a full tee shot to 28. And then the scratch or bogey has a 25-yard shot to 28, which gives a 2 off of the chart. Scratch has a 225 or 175-yard shot to 28, which gives them a 4 off of the chart. So what I'm seeing a lot handed into me is only the green side information, or no information that's listed for the bogey. There's that tree information. So if it's moderate trees, and again, I gave you the term moderate, so please accept that it's there. Off of the chart for a par 3 hole, moderate is 2. Off of the chart for a 2 or more shot hole. Remember, it's not listed as, actually it's not listed as par 3, par 4, 5. It's listed as 1 shot hole and 2 or more shot hole. So even though it's moderate for everybody, that's why I have a 4 for the bogey and not a 2. Green surface is given, and then I can give you the math. Oh, I thought I had that written out. So the math for the psychological, we can look that up if you really are interested. But just so you know, I have a bunch of 6, 5, 7. I think I kept that. I think I might have actually forwarded that. That shouldn't, don't worry about the psychological on this one. I'll go over that again if we absolutely need to, but that shouldn't be there. Anyway, does anybody have any questions for bogey can't reach the green on a par 3? Big reminders, and I'll go through it again. Actually, I've got a slide. There's a slide for that. Remember, if the bogey has a landing zone, you have to collect all information on the Form 1, just like on any other landing zone for on a par 4 or 5 hole. From the guide manual, under topography, for holes where the bogey player cannot reach the green in 1 shot, topography is rated as a 2-shot hole. Under fairway, the note under par 3 holes, for the bogey player on holes where the bogey player cannot reach the center of the green in 1 shot, areas short of the green are taken into account by the par 3 adjustment under R&R. And here's another thing I want to remind you. If this same procedure is also used if there's a pond in front and you have to lay up the bogey. It's the same exact procedure, even if he's not hitting a full shot. Same thing for forced or choice layups. Bunkers, note under par 3 holes, where the bogey player cannot reach the center of the green in 1 shot, greenside bunkers may qualify as fairway bunkers, even though there's no fairway. So basically, you're not giving the no adjustment that it calls for everybody else. For lateral, while there is no specific par 3 note, we want to record and assess the shot length at the landing zone, fairway, and the green, and then the distance to the lateral obstacle from the center of the landing zone, just like you would any place else. And here's a big note that I want to talk about, why you should rate a par 3 as a par 4 when it's listed on the sheet. When I show you the words rate as a par 3 hole, that could be a long par 3 where a bogey player can't reach, or normally they wouldn't be playing. That's when it's the back tee of a par 3 hole. Sometimes you have a short par 4 hole where a scratch player probably is never going to play that forward tee. We want to rate that as a par 4 hole because they're almost never going to be playing that far forward. Rating anything other than what I'm asking you for, and I'm going to show you the other version in just a minute because I want to see what it looks like. If you rate anything other than what I've asked for, it will artificially skew the course rating and slope rating as a disadvantage to the player. It didn't matter until 2020 when the World Handicap System also made par relevant to handicapping and target score. Now it's necessary for us to do it this way. And more than anything else, if I ask you to rate it as a par 3 and you rate it as a par 4, or if I ask you to rate it as a par 4 and you rate it as a par 3, it just wastes my time because now I have to go back and re-rate the hole. So please, if you see the note, rate as a par 3 hole, please do that. So here's an example of a different golf hole. The hole's 230. There's a topography here. It's a flat hole. We've got the information for the green. The bogey's off the green. I'm going to throw my little, no, we're good. Everything's kind of calculated for a long par 3, probably the black tees somewhere or back tees somewhere. Now that same yardage, 230 yards, for women, think about 190-yard hole. That's the forward tee on a par 4 or a 190-yard hole. That might be the white or blue tees on a par 3 where the scratch can reach the green. Again, if you see rate as a par 3, you can see where all these different numbers get adjusted. If I ask you to rate it as a par 4 hole, where we need to just get the scratch golfer off the green. You don't need to give them a layup or a layup adjustment. You just need to get them, 20 yards off the green, 30 yards off the green if you need most. But you can see how this really starts adding up if we're doing the wrong one in the wrong situation. That topography, boom, we get another point for scratch that wouldn't count. Here, if this little spot short of the green is 17 yards wide, I'm also getting it for scratch and for bogey. If both are playing a short shot to the green, that takes a 6 down to a 2 for that short forward par hole. Recovering rough is affected. Bunker gets affected. All these little things start getting affected along the line of play. Lateral changes because I want to have that short shot in front of the green and then the shot to the green instead of just the shot to the green. And then trees, you might still adjust if I have a short shot to the green and I would have only given it a 1 if it was a par 3. I can still give it a 1 if it's a par 4 for scratch, but you still want to look at all the different things. So can you see why if I note rate as a par 3 hole or rate as a par 4 hole, can you see why that's really important to do that thing? Does anybody have any questions about why we would do that? It's always listed on the hole if I can remember to. And if I get to a hole and I haven't made the note and I have a par 4, and that forward tee is at 190, 200 for women or 230, 240 for men. Think about doing that process anyway, even though I haven't asked for it. Going forward, there's some very basic rules for course rating teams. These are put forward by USGA. This isn't my requirements. This is USGA's. For each hole, the rating team must be composed of a minimum of 3 trained and experienced raters. One person should be designated as team leader. I receive their paperwork. That's the information that goes into the computer. The team leader must have attended a course rating seminar by an authorized association, whether it's OGA, PNGA, or USGA. For those a few years before COVID, we did a couple of PNGA calibrations where we got together with everybody. I don't know if you've tried to travel, but between gas, hotel rooms, and everything, the price has gotten so ridiculously expensive. Next year, more than likely, not definitely, but more than likely, we're going to do a calibration, something like what I'm doing here, where we're doing it online for part of the day, and there'll be an online quiz using Google Earth and some notes. If we can do it again where we're meeting all together, I can get anybody who's local to come. And it's supposedly going to be in Oregon if it happens. That's where we would have been the year of COVID if the world hadn't shut down and the plague hadn't hit. Anyways, I can still approve you of being a team leader, even if you haven't gone to a specific training. All team leaders, by the way, are going to receive a link to USGA for the online calibration. And if you have already received that link, I'm going to be sending you an email shortly. That online training seminar, we want to make sure that it's being used. If you haven't logged in for a year, they're going to delete your access shortly. So by Wednesday of next week, I'm going to get new links out for a few people who haven't been invited in yet. And I'm going to send a reminder for those who have. Anyway, moving on. Number 2, to avoid bias, do not serve as team leader when your home course is being rated. That can simply be being a team member instead of a team leader, or you could rate for the opposite gender. When I go to rate at Forest Hills Golf Course, even though it's not my home course anymore, I rate for men because I'm going to be a team leader no matter what. Now, they trust me at this point, but still, I feel better using the same rules as you guys are going to use. You don't want to rate it while you're playing it. That would be throw in all sorts of weird things. We have to concentrate on rating. And when we do play the course, I want to remind you guys all that we are playing it to support our course rating. It's not just for fun. Yes, enjoy yourself, but think about those numbers when you're out there. We want to make sure that we haven't missed something, overrated or underrated. As we go forward in the morning, I will make sure that I tell you guys, if we have tee times at 1 o'clock and you need to be in by 12, I'm going to start calling everybody on the team to get them moving if you're not there in time, because we have to get off the course. And if they've held times for us, we need to make those times. Anyways, again, we focused on USGA's rules, not OGA's rules. You want to view each hole from the teeing ground, each landing zone for the scratch and bogey players, and at the green. Now that can be different people. You know, we all kind of split up. Some people assess the fairways, some people assess the greens, some people are back, some people are forward. So altogether, your team has viewed from the entire hole. Rate each obstacle in accordance to the guidelines established in the course rating system, not based on how you would play the hole. So don't think about, oh, I hate this hole, I always throw it in the water and rate the water higher. You want to rate how the book says, not how we play. You don't want to discuss the obstacle values while evaluating the hole. You want to wait till the end, and you don't want to record the final obstacle values on the form until all positions have been evaluated. If I'm at the back, I don't want to write in the final list what I have for fairway and topography, because the fairway and topography up further might be more difficult. Write it in its proper landing zone area and then assess the final numbers. You want to agree within 1 unit with your team members. The team leader decision is final. We tend to get into too many discussions on the course. Each landing zone, unless you have something crazy, when you're measuring a landing zone, unless there's a bunch of weird stuff going on, it shouldn't take you more than 30 seconds once you've been doing this for a year or so. I'm at the landing zone, topography, write it down, measure, write it down. It shouldn't take as long as we are taking at the landing zones. But if you have a discussion, that discussion needs to be limited. You can't stand in the middle of the fairway for 5 minutes discussing whether you should or shouldn't. And typically it's a 1-point thing anyway. We need to keep going. We need to move through the course a fair bit quicker. It's hard to do sometimes, and I know everybody wants to get everything right, but don't argue about things. Sometimes that discussion needs to happen when we're moving, when we're driving up to the next spot, moving up to the next spot. Anyways, Do not discuss course rating results with the club. Anybody asks you what the rating is going to do, you just let them know it's going to change. It might be a little, it might be a lot, it might go up, might go down. We've assessed the positions. The computer does the math. Gretchen will release it. If you're on the course and people ask you what's going on, give them my email. I'll discuss with them. I don't want you guys getting bogged down with the members or the players who are there. Okay, let's go forward to OGA's course rating procedure. You're going to show up the course at the assigned time. If you're going to be late, contact me as soon as possible. Everybody, if you don't have my phone number, you will. At the bottom of every email that I send out is my office number. That office number also rings on my cell phone. So you can call that anytime, day or night. I don't answer it at night, but if we're about to get on the course rating, I will answer that. Versus my home phone, or the cell phone also has my home phone number, and I don't answer calls after a certain time, whether it's work or not. But if you call my work number, I know it's going to be there. Form 1s will provide you with the forms as well as pencils, clips, and anything else. Lasers will be provided. You can use your own. Check batteries. There's my big reminder for our first rating. I need to go out and get a bunch of new batteries. We're going to start the year with fresh batteries in all of the lasers. I'm trying to get some more new ones in. I'm trying to find another manufacturer that has elevation. We want to make sure that you wear your volunteer shirt, name tag, and either khaki pants, shorts, or a skirt. Everybody's getting new name tags with the new logo over here. I don't know if you can see it or not, the new logo that you see on everything. Everybody's getting new name tags this year. Tony got his the other day. Everybody else will get them as we go. The newbies, I've got to get you in the list. You want to wear appropriate footwear. Golf shoes, sneakers are fine, tennis shoes, whatever you want to call them. Rain or hiking boots on mucky or muddy weather days. Never, ever flip-flops or sandals. Just like casual sandals. If it's a warm summer day and we're at the beach, golf sandals with straps are okay, but no flip-flops, and never metal spikes. I started golf right when metal spikes were on their way out. I've never worn metal spikes. I never will. I hate even the sound of them walking up in. Anyways, remember that while you are rating as well as playing the course, even if it's the day before or after, you are representing OGA. The big thing, don't try to ignore the golfers as much as possible. If somebody hits a bad shot, please don't comment. If somebody hits a good shot, that's okay if they're not too leery about. If it's the last guy hitting and they hit a good shot, it's okay to give a quiet golf clap. But try not to, bad language, please avoid, especially if there's kids around. Don't comment on people's golf games. Unless they're talking to you, don't talk to them first. A lot of people are really intimidated when we're around them. So try to remember that and just kind of ignore the golfers and let them go unless they're talking to us or asking questions. If they are asking you questions, we want to be careful and not get bogged down with talking to them and giving descriptions. And that's a very simple answer. Thank you. If you have any questions about your rating, you're free to talk to Gretchen. She's in the other group. She's on the other 9. You'll catch her. Maybe I need to start giving out my cards, my business cards. Your team leader can hand them a card and say, hey, email Gretchen when we're done with the rate. She'd be glad to discuss anything with you. But don't get bogged down with the golfers. It should take no longer than 3 to 4 hours to rate a golf course. That number comes from USGA. That's not 9. It's not 3 to 4 hours per 9. It's 3 to 4 hours for the whole course. We are definitely getting bogged down too much somehow with the numbers that we're pulling. Anyways, if a team cannot decide on how to play a hole or how an obstacle impacts, I need you to bring the information to me and invoke a 2-minute rule if that's what it takes. The most of what we do, it's a yes, no. is there a bounce? Yes, there's a bounce. No, there's a bounce. Wait, there's a plus minus bounce. Good. There's the question. Yes, no, both. It's not a 10-minute dissertation of it might hit the bunker, but it might not hit the bunker. If the conversation starts with, do you think this is just, don't start with, well, yes, it exists. Yes, we have carry plus 10, save carry. Done. You don't need a 5-minute conversation on these things. So, and if you get into that, get stuck on where a layup happens, where a dog leg happens, is it transition or not? Literally, somebody start timing. 2 minutes, guys. We've been talking for too long here. Let's take all the information and give it to Gretchen. Gretchen will make the final decision. I am perfectly fine making that extra decision as long as we can get through the course rating. I still understand I'm a lot quicker than anybody else out there. And it's not about the collecting of the information at the end or pulling the chart numbers. I look back and I see people on a straight, flat golf hole at one landing zone, and they're taking minutes to make this assessment. It's just taking too long. It should, on a straightaway, easy to rate hole, it should take you 20 to 30 seconds, not 2 to 3 minutes. And you can see where that's going to add up if you spend too much time at one landing zone. You get to your landing zone, look left, look right. Did you have to carry anything? Write it down. What's the topography? It's X, Y, Z. Fairway width, write it down. Lateral, write it down. It shouldn't take as long as it's doing. And I think we're going to enjoy it a lot more if we're not taking 4 to 5 hours to rate 9 holes of a golf course. Anyway, so there's my thing. 2-minute rule, just like the rules of golf for lost ball. Call it lost rate. We're getting lost in the ratings. Invoke the 2-minute rule. Oh, we don't need that. On-course training, of course, we had to do it last week. Next year, I'll get back on a better schedule where that on-course training will be the day after we do everything else. We had a couple of people there. I think we had a good, successful day. We got lucky with the weather. But that's it. Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing? What we're, but the biggest thing I can tell you is absolute heartfelt thank you for everybody who volunteers. We couldn't do this without you. I know eventually USGA is going to have require fewer raters on the course because there's going to be a lot more done by GPS and by artificial intelligence. I hate it, but there's other ways to do things using Google Earth that make up for stuff that we can't see. But for now, I still need 10 to 12 raters for an 18-hole course, and I can't do that by myself. And I cannot thank you enough for coming and participating. That's kind of the end of my canned participation. Before I shut this down, does anybody have any further questions? After this, I can turn it off and talk about policies or course rating or the Pro Board site or anything else. We're all good at the moment? I'm going to stop the recording now. I just stopped recording. And at this point, if anybody